Okay, so there's some bula vinaka, everyone. Oops.
Are you going to play some music?
Yes, I'll play some music. Okay. Volume up. Another one. Okay. Bula vinaka. Bula everyone. Bula Rakiraki. One. Okay, so we'll play another song. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Well, everybody, Nakavakalevu for logging in. So I will continue to sing a song. Okay, oops. So sorry, our phone died, so we resurrected with another phone. Okay, so we'll continue singing our song. Beautiful, beautiful song, eh? Okay. Naka. Bula everybody. Naka. Bula to those of you logging in from Australia. Bula Sydney, Melbourne. Bula Maynilandi. Vinaka Vakalevu. That is a wonderful choir that we've always been using over these years. We have to acknowledge them, Dr. Kirstie. It's a group of students at USP, as well as FIT, which is now Fiji National University. They've been working together to create this, beautiful music and song, which is apparently one of the very wonderful songs to Dr. Kirstie. I don't know whether you know about it, that this is kind of like the unofficial the national anthem for Fiji, because it's a wonderful song that makes many of us Fijians outside of Fiji, when we miss Fiji, this is a kind of song that we, listen to. Just kind of, talks about the beauty about Fiji, the flowers and the ocean, what else, and the people. And then I did some research, Dr. Kirstie, just like how you do your research as a historian. I found out that the original song of this particular one was actually penned by a gentleman from Kandavu, where I'm from.
Oh, really?
Yes, and he's from the village of Moani, in Kandavu. So he originally wrote the song, and now the song is he wrote it around the 60s, and now they are replacing Saiviti Lomani, but it used to be Saimoani, which is the name of the village. That was the original song. So it's good to do some research, and find out about certain songs. But it's really nice that we found out that he is originally from Kandavu, and he wrote this song. And now everyone in Fiji sings it, because it's such a beautiful song. It reminds us of home. And so we've been using it as well for this program. So there you go. So it's nice to always start with a beautiful song and connects us to Fiji. So send bula to everybody logging in today. Vinaka Vakalevu for logging in to listen to a beautiful Talanoa that Dr. Kirstie Close and myself will be sharing today about Rakiraki. So we will be traveling over to the province of Ra today. So there's a few from Ra or Vasuni Ra that are logging in today. Nimbula Vinaka. I think I can see Te Tambaleka. Bula Vinaka Tai, Nasema Tikumai, Sili Lomalangi, Bula Vinaka Naita, Mrs. Marietta Ringamoto, Nimbula Vinaka, Sepesa Leweningila, Bula Vinaka, and William Wangalaivi. Thank you so much to those of you for logging in. And Meranda Ningasi, thank you. Alfie Prasad, Noaye Mauri, our friends from Rotuma as well, Dr. Kirstie, logging in today.
That's awesome.
So really appreciate the time that you've put aside to listen to beautiful Talanoa and sharing from Dr. Kirstie. And there's some introduction that I will be sharing as well, but more will be on Dr. Kirstie, because she's going to be sharing some of her research and her memories and her travels to Rakiraki in the province of Ra. Aranayandra, everybody. Vinaka Vakalevu, wherever you're logging in from Australia, from New Zealand, from the US, as well as in the United Kingdom and Europe. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're logging in from. And thank you so much for joining me and Dr. Kirstie today for sharing some very enlightening information that Dr. Kirstie has found along the way. And she's super excited to be sharing it as well with all of us. So Dr. Kirstie, how are you, my dear?
I'm good. Yes, we're in our 4th lockdown in Melbourne. So I am, it's kind of become just the normal thing to do now. So back to face masks, back to the whole, staying within a 5-kilometer radius. It's only for 7 days at this stage. So I think it feels manageable. Yes. What about you? How are you?
There's a spike or the increase of the numbers?
There's a spike because they've had some issues with hotel quarantines, and Yeah, so that's a bit of a debacle, and the rollout of the vaccines has been quite slow here. So that's why, those are the main factors that people are saying the reason for this spike in numbers is outbreak, and then people not getting tested and stuff like this, or not getting symptoms and then going around not knowing that they're carrying it. So yeah, it's still, it's just such an odd thing to be living through, but it just feels like it'll never go away at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. We seem to be okay over here so far. Apparently, Dr. Kirstie, we were driving around town the other day, and there's an influx of tourists apparently here, because a lot of Americans are now getting vaccinated. So there's been people allowed to, walk without any masks. And you have to only travel if you show your vaccination card. That's a requirement. Yeah, so that's a requirement. So maybe while we have an audience from Fiji listening in, or some friends of ours listening in from around the Pacific, there's a lot of misinformation maybe about vaccination. So maybe I just want to say before we start our Talanoa, just to encourage people, to have their vaccination and not be afraid, because there's a lot of fake news or false information being shared around that, if you get injected, they might put a chip in you, and things like that. So I was saying it in the last interview I had, was that the chip is even bigger than the needle. So there's going to be an impossible way to inject a chip into your body. So some of this information, for those of you who are watching, just to not to be afraid. There's a few of us, like myself, I've been vaccinated, and I'm still here talking to you, Dr. Kirstie. I haven't died yet.
My mum and dad got theirs done, and mum messaged me something like, "Oh, my head hasn't rolled off yet." So, and it's been like 2 weeks now. So I think it would have come off if it was going to. Right. But there's all sorts of weird stories coming around. Like someone else messaged me and just like said, "I haven't been able to tell you, but I've been on a trial vaccine made by the Russians, and apparently it will make me start talking in Russian, and then it starts going into Russian." And I got tricked by it at the start. I'm like, "What? You got vaccinated?" Like, this is before the vaccines were available. And then I realized it was a joke. I'm like, get me every time. But there's no chips. I don't think anyone's organized enough to put microchips in us at the moment. Do you?
So what can be your advice to our listeners, Dr. Kirstie, as far as vaccination is concerned?
I'm quite pro-vaccine, although I'm nervous about it all too, but I think it's becoming really clear that that's going to be the main way we can all get back to some kind of normal. So
thank you, vinaka. And I think, even though for us in Hawaii, there is no way to force anyone, it's up to us. So so it's kind of it's not mandatory. It's up to us as to whether you wanna have it, and it's all for free. So the government is offering it for everybody. So
I
far
think it's
so
the
good.
same. Same for us. I saw that there's prizes for people in the US who get them every now and again, or they, like every millionth person who gets vaccinated gets some big prize.
Wow.
Like just trying to suck people into getting it, or not suck them in, but to encourage people to do it. It's that would be effective for me. I would definitely be rolling up my sleeve quicker if there was like $50,000 on offer. Take me, do what you want with my arms. I don't care.
Vinaka. Thank you for that. Thank you for the encouragement, on that part, especially during this time, COVID-19. All right. So from COVID-19 now to Rakiraki. So shall we go to our Talanoa session? So I will share my screen now. Can you see my screen from your side?
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome everybody who's joining us today. Really appreciate the time you've taken to come and join me and Dr. Kirstie on our monthly talk story. So we've been traveling to different places. Which place did we go first, Dr. Kirstie, by way of memory?
Suva.
Yes, yes. So we went to Suva, and then the next one we went to Nosori. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the third one?
Viwa.
Yeah, we went to the island of Viwa, and then now
Rakiraki.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now we're going to Rakiraki, and I noticed with the names that are listing in, some have affiliations, tribal affiliations to Rakiraki. So vinaka vakale for those of you who are joining in today, and we have a PowerPoint that we will be sharing with you. So Talanoa is a good way to go down memory lane and just appreciate what Rakiraki is all about, yeah, especially for the province of Ra. Yeah, so I will share my screen now. So my usual map.
That's beautiful.
So I love maps. Mr. Bunidil is rolling his eyes right now. But I will keep showing my maps. And so here we are. Yeah, for those of you who are watching from home, again, it's very important with our online sharing is to put everything on, in context. Yeah, so that we are outside of Fiji right now. We are outside of Rakiraki, but when we look at the map, we'll say, Isa Rakiraki. Yeah, so Isa, we can actually travel there virtually right now. Vinaka vakalev to the Kautonga family listening in from England, the Dolovina to all of you, and the Dolovina to Ariella, Matilita Rangong, Dolovina Tau, for joining in as well for Talanoa today. So with our map, it's always good to go down memory lane. So you can see we were in Suva, which is the capital of Fiji, and it became capital in 1882. Yeah, and then we went to Nosori, right next door, and it was interesting, Dr. Kirstie, about Suva and Nosori. What is one thing you remembered from our Suva Talanoa that you want to share today?
Oh, I think it's the main thing that stood out for me was just acknowledging the original community that was there, and that the original community was at what is now the museum. So yeah, I found that really interesting. That one stayed with me. Yeah,
Sarah, absolutely. Yeah. So really connecting it to the people of Suva, and thinking of them right now because they are now moved to Suvavo across the harbor, which is translated as the new Suva. But the original Suva village was where, as you mentioned, where the museum is, and around where the capital city is, where Suva is located. Vinaka, anything you want to share from Nosori?
The airport, and also W11, because I've just been doing a lot of research on W11 and Nabuso. And all the Methodist agricultural projects that were going on in the 1920s and 30s. So yes, that's at the forefront of my brain at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. For me, one thing I remembered from Nosori was the sugar mill, as well as the bridge, the railway bridge. So that's kind of interesting to see how the railway bridge was built in 1937. I will always remember that, Dr. Kirstie, because that's the year my dad was born. So he was born in 1937, which is now 84 years old. The bridge, the bridge, and my dad. And anything for us to remember from Viwa?
Well, yeah. So again, John Hunt always comes to mind, the missionary who was there, and was there with the printing press and all that sort of stuff. So that's that's always, I'm going to think of him when I think of Viwa. How about you?
Yes, I think for viewer also notice, when there was Mbao and Rewa war, there was a war between these two places. Viewer became sort of like a neutral location where most of the missionaries went to. That was interesting, as well as when they eventually translated the Bible. They did the whole Bible translation and printing on the island of Viwa, and the printing press is at the museum, Fiji Museum. Yeah, so that's something I remember about Viwa.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's been interesting going to all these different places and figuring them out in the context of what was going on at different times. I think it's been a good way to talk about little bits of history.
Yes.
But grounded.
Absolutely. So now, those of you looking at the map, so it's kind of like we're going across the island, from Suva to Nosori, Viwa, Imbao, and now we're going across all the way to Rakiraki. So you can see up there we have the Rakiraki Hotel, and of course the mill, which is no longer in use at the moment, the Penang sugar mill. But we will talk a little bit about that as we travel into Rakiraki itself, vinaka. Okay. For those who are familiar with this map, I always show this map, particularly for our teachers and our children who are learning about Fiji, about the 3 confederacies in Fiji. And if you notice here, Kumbuna is the confederacy that the province of Ra is part of. So for those of you watching, using this map is very valuable on so many levels. So learning and appreciating Fiji's geography is very important. So Fiji is divided into the 3 confederacies, Kumbuna, Burimastanga, and Towata, and the 14 provinces. And Ra, which Rakiraki is part of, is under the province of Ra. Okay, Naka. Oh yes, the Vinaka Mr. Teto Tambaleka just sharing with us, Dr. Kirstie, that the Penang sugar mill was dismantled in 2018.
Okay.
Yes, 2019. So it doesn't exist anymore, is not in operation anymore. But I've heard through the Coconut Wireless, Dr. Kirstie and Mr. Teto Tambaleka, that the Fiji Museum is actually interested in turning the mill into a sugar museum.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, and, that would be amazing.
That will be amazing. So I will be maybe inviting the director of the Fiji Museum to my platform at some point to get some of his plans on museums around Fiji. So I can see that there's a vision of creating different museums across the country. So I'm really happy to hear about that. Even though it's not in use for sugar production, but it's now going to be used for heritage purposes. What do you think about that?
Amazing. That would be great.
Yes. I was really happy to, like in Australia, in Brisbane, they have a lot of heritage places to do with the sugar industry. And I remember when I was in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, they are like Fiji. They maybe like Rakiraki, they no longer produce sugar like they used to. But then they're turning their mills into heritage centers.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something really good, from our museum perspective and heritage perspective, that even though sugar is no longer produced as it's used to, but at least the people of Rakiraki can benefit from it. And if they turn it into a museum, that will be amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking, still attract people, more people than, it just, you don't want it to just sit there doing nothing. Seems.
Absolutely. So I love to see that. And particularly, I think if Rakiraki takes the lead to create a museum from the mill, imagine how the other towns, in Tumba, and it goes all the way to Lautoka, even though they're still in use, they can start thinking ahead and maybe turning some of the old buildings that may have been left unused into, maybe libraries or museums or archives. I'm not, yeah, this will be very encouraging.
Yeah, amazing.
So we'll keep you all posted, for those of you listening in, about the sugar mill in Penang, the Penang sugar mill in Rakiraki. Yeah. Okay, so here I'm showing another map, again to kind of encapsulate the province of Ra. And it's wonderful that we can use this platform to learn about our provinces in Fiji, and particularly with your journey, Dr. Kirstie, and bringing to light some of these places, especially the province of Ra. I have a soft spot for Ra. They have so much very deep history, prehistorically speaking, plus also some colonial history, which I know you will shed more light to it too. Anything you want to share from this map? Any memories that comes to you by looking at this map?
Well, yeah, so I was really lucky. I kind of just passed through Rakiraki and had cups of tea with Deaconess Unayasi Matualu when we were coming up to do interviews. But I stayed at Tavua and then went round to Nailanga. But my great-granddad, Arthur Laline, he oversaw the whole of Ra province for his time on Viti Levu. So he started off working on Taviuni, and then in 1923 he was transferred to Nailanga, and then that's when he oversaw it. And at that point, Ra province with the Methodist mission circuits included what is now Ra and Ba province. So huge. It was the biggest circuit for the Methodist mission at the time. So that's like, they used to go and stay at Nandari Vatu, and the family knew about Vatu Kola, and I think he was involved in setting up the mine there, that sort of thing. So yeah, the whole area is really special to me too, and I just think it's one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. Just so beautiful. Like the times I've come up on the bus, yeah, sorry everyone else, but I really think there's just, yeah, it's a very special place.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's some ocean view, where, especially when you're catching the bus, to go across the island. It is definitely very beautiful, looking across the harbor. Yeah. Around, if I'm looking at the map here, especially around the Vatukadeva range, here it is just gorgeous. I remember a few years ago, Dr. Kirstie, when I took the children to Fiji with Mr. Bunindilo, I decided to take them on a bus ride, because we normally catch the bus or drive a car from Nandi over the Singatoka region and over to Suva. But this time around, I told them, no, we're going to change route and we're going to go across. And the children love it. They loved it.
It's very fun. It's not, I got a little bit nervous on some of that road going up, on the way to Rakiraki from Suva, like up past there back in the day. I don't know if it's improved since then, but yeah, like when it's raining and it's all slippery, I get nervous. But, like it's still, these are my favorite memories from Fiji. Like,
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm really glad, in a way, if you look at the map here, the road actually goes along the coast, and that is really nice. Especially if you're coming from the Mba side, Mba Tavua, because it seems like you came by the Wanimbuka way, across. For us, we came by the other way, and my children were like, "Wow, we never, really realized how beautiful this place is." So it was a good experience for them to actually see these places, and just compare and contrast the places, in terms of trees and grass and color of the environment, the ocean. So it was like a field trip for them. So that was really nice.
Yeah, no, that is awesome.
Okay, and let me see. Yeah, so this is another map again. I just love showing maps because even for me, for the last session I had on Ra, the province of Ra, there was a lot of appreciation coming from the children of Ra, where, they can be able to, because most of them just travel in straight to their village, but they didn't get to see what other villages are next to them, so that's a really good way, to actually visualize it, but through this kind of maps. And especially, when we go on the road, we just go on the coast, but look at some of these villages right in the middle. You've got Nassau, Sawanivo, Namara, Nakorovo, Nawairuku. Many of these places I haven't even been to myself. I've done a lot of work along the coast, but I haven't really gone in. So that's another experience I look forward to when I go back home.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is another map. I think this is my last map that I usually show in my previous one. So let's see. I think you can. And these are the maps. This was put together by USP and SPC and all these NGOs and groups. But one thing I like about this map, that it actually clearly demarcates all the different tikina.
I really like this. This is so good.
Yes.
Yes.
So a lot of people, like when we just say Ra province, right? And you just kind of cumulatively just mesh everyone together. But in actual fact, it's very important that we divide it all up like this and then see all the different ones. So now look at Rakiraki, which is what we're going to talk about today. See?
It's only teeny tiny, sort of.
Yeah. Look at the whole region of Ra, right, all the way here. And this is the bit that we will be focused in today. And Mr. Taito Tambaleka, who is sharing a lot of information here, Nakabalevutai, his mother is from the village which is on this map. His mother is from Vatuseki Sawa. Yeah, that is mother's village. Yes.
That is a great map. I had not seen that.
Absolutely. And there's some information that Mr. Teto just sharing with us, that all the steel and iron works have been removed. This is going back to the Penang sugar mill. So, wow. Okay. So thank you, Tai. That's a good challenge. That if a museum is to be built, maybe it needs to be built in Vatukadeva here. Where he's from. I totally agree, because this part here, as you were saying before, it's very beautiful. Yeah, it's kind of got a nice view of this area over here. Wow. Okay, so Vinaka Vakalevu Tai for sharing some information about Rakiraki, and it's really nice to know. Even Mr. Rupeni Nainima, Vinaka Vakalevu Tau, yeah. So many people are in agreement to us, Kirstie, on how beautiful the Ra coast is, particularly here around this area. And it's kind of like the most people go around the Simatoka way. So maybe this could be a good promo for the province of Ra, that we should encourage our local people, drive across the other way and see the beautiful side of Vitilevu. Okay, so so this map, apparently Dr. Kirstie, was requested by a lot of my Ra friends. Yeah, so I shared the map with everybody, but I have to thank USP and SPC and all these beautiful people who have funded this project for creating such a wonderful map. I loved it because I was looking for a map that clearly demarcates the tikina, and this is one of it. I love it. I'm gonna send the PowerPoint, and it has all the information on it for you.
Awesome.
Okay, so here we are, welcoming everybody to Rakiraki, Aranayandra, everybody. So today, our Talanoa will be divided into 3. So I will start it off by sharing a little bit about the some of the data or history of Rakiraki, just telling a little bit about sharing the villages that are there, the population, just a little bit of the background. And then I will hand it over to you, Dr. Kirstie, to dive into some of your interesting findings. Yeah. Okay,
That's
so yeah, vinaka. So before I start, I want to share with everybody about your book. So can you share a little bit about how you able to get this book, and tell us a little bit about your book, particularly for our audience. Some of them are listening to us for the very first time.
yeah, vinaka. So this is the book that comes out of my PhD, and you can get it for free online. I published it through ANU Press. And so, yeah, you can get it as a PDF, or you can order a hard copy. I don't know how long that would take, probably quite a while at the moment, but yeah, you can get it either way. But it was important to me that people are able to get it for free if they wanted to. You know, the main thing, like Dr. T and I often talk about, is making sure that people can get the information that researchers are producing. So yeah, but my it's got a little bit about my family. So my grandma was one of the Laline family. My great granddad was Arthur Laline, who worked, as I mentioned before, in around Ra in the 1920s and 30s, and he was on Tabayuni before that. And his uncle was Charles Oswald Laline, who the Laline School is named after. So that's my family connection. And so I grew up hearing about Fiji, and a lot of this book was inspired by me wanting to understand better the ways the Methodist mission was involved in colonization and organizing people's work and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it looks at a slow process of decolonization and how the Fijian Methodist Church as a national church was set up in the 1960s. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully it will be of interest. This is Navuso on the front cover. So yeah, so I'm working on another article at the moment, which is sort of a spin-off from the book, which talks about Navuso and Dabui Levu much more. But yeah, hopefully it'll be, Ra's definitely in there, Rakiraki and all around the top end, Tabua, Yalandra, all those places, it's in there. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so for those of you who are interested to get a copy of this book, you can find it online. If you go, even you can type up the name, it'll pop up. And it's published by the Australian National University. And as Dr. Kirstie is saying, yeah, it's available for free digitally. Thank you for that, Dr. Kirstie. And if you want a hard copy, then there are different avenues where you can purchase a hard copy, and then it'll be sent to you from wherever vendor that you're going to choose to send the book to you. Very good. Congratulations, Dr. Kirstie, for these books and all the writings that you've done. And we look forward to more. Okay, so here I just want to start by sharing a little bit about the province of Ra, and then we can go into your story of connecting it to your granddad. So that's really nice. Did you say granddad or great granddad?
Great granddad, yeah.
Great granddad. Okay. So there's Arthur Laline and his son Charles Oswald Laline. Is that the one Uncle. That the school is named after? Uncle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah.
Yes, the family tree.
Yes. And then, of course, for those who are listening in, will know that it's named after Laline Memorial School, which is the school that we have in the Wile, Vinaka. So to kickstart our Talanoa, the Yasano Ra, we have, there are 19 districts and 89 villages. So that's the the data that I have. So if anyone is watching and maybe want to alter that, please put it in the comments section. And that's the area of the place of Ra, and 1,340 square kilometers. And in 2007, on the census record, there were 29,470 people living in Ra province. Okay, and this was the major town that we got, according to the online information. I think they mentioned Rakiraki and Vaileka, but I think we got corrected the last time we shared about this. That is Vaileka the town. Yeah, Vaileka is the town. And In Rakiraki, yeah, that's the maybe the correct way of saying it. Eh? So Vailaka is the town in the area of or Tikino of Rakiraki. Yeah, that's where it's located. Okay, so maybe Teto Tambaleka can correct me on that one. So we're learning as we go, Naka. And now going into the Rakiraki District. Yeah, so Rakiraki District or the Tikino of Rakiraki, there are 5 villages. Yeah, so these are the villages: Navatulevu, Vatusekia Sawa, Navuavua, Vitawa, and Malaki. Yeah, so I should take away the S over there, but Rakiraki District, these are the 5 villages, and Vatusekia Sawa is the village where Mr. Teto Tambaleka's mom is from. So Mr. Teto Tambaleka, Dr. Kirstie was invited to in the past on this program, and it was lovely to hear his story. So that's where he was raised from his vas, where his mother's side. Okay, so those are some of the brief information that I gathered about the province of Ra and the Tikina of Rakiraki, and these are some pictures. This is Vailaka town. Yeah, Vailaka town. So I'm sure I remember where the bus came and stopped when we came from Nandi. We came by Nandi, Lotoka, Tumba, and then via Tavua into Vailaka. So we stopped here, and I think there was a place here where the bus stopped, and there were people selling roti and snacks, which always makes a trip around the island very memorable. Yeah, you'll never go hungry, Kirstie.
No, never. No.
Which I know you will remember. So what was your memory of Rakiraki or Vailaka town?
Like I said, I remember getting a cup of tea and possibly got roti as well. You know how you can get the nice ones with the potato in it?
Yes.
Yeah, I really love that. So I'm pretty sure that's what I got. It's a long time ago, but I definitely remember the cup of tea. I can't remember. It would have been in those shops somewhere. Yeah, but I do remember getting off the bus at that spot.
Yeah, so it's always a good stop. It's always nice to stop and get some refreshments. And again, I think looking at Vailaka town, it's giving credit, I think, to the sugar industry. Yeah, around that area, particularly with the Penang sugar mill being built in this area. So yeah, you'll start to notice as we go around the island that most of the towns are definitely, in this case, connected to the sugar industry. Yeah, going back to the 1800s. So really interesting. Okay, and yeah, so these are some of the old photos that I was able to find through the Turnbull Library. Yeah, so Turnbull Library. I think I wrote down so this was in Navatu, and this picture was taken in 1930. Yeah, if I remember. So yeah, so really, really nice picture. And I still see some more. Look at these thatched homes that are still there. So this is during the early 1900s. Yeah, so credit to the New Zealand Turnbull Library. So I was able to, look at that. Yeah, so I'm sure those who are watching can be able to remember. Anybody with memories of this particular picture? I think one thing I saw was it had Navatu. Yeah, Navatu written on it in 1930s.
Wow.
Yeah, so early 1900s. So thanks to these libraries, for keeping many of these historical photographs. Yeah, and I think I've got a couple more photos. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, so this was in 1939. So all taken by, I think it says aviation photography. They were the ones that did all the photos. And I like this particular photo. Yeah, I still have the Mbure at the back there. And look at the model of this car.
I know, so retro.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah, I'm sure if I'm driving this in town, I'll be the center of the attention of those who are on the road. Looks really cool. Yeah. So that's the second picture that I found. And I think that's a third picture. This one, it had Rakiraki written on it. So maybe we can pose it to those who are watching, if anyone has any recollection, because that was the only reference that I remembered when I saw the picture. And there's the Bure over there, and there's another bigger house at the back. Yeah, so this would have been taken all around the 1930s. Yeah? Okay, so that's the picture. And I think I got one more. This one here, also around the same time too, let's look at the car as well. So maybe from a different angle. It had Rakiraki Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Rakiraki Hotel. So these were the four black and white photographs that I was able to get through the Turnbull Library.
I'm so glad you found them, because I really struggled to find any this time. Yeah, so these are wonderful.
Yeah, so when I went into the database on the search engine, at the top of the search box, I just typed in, I tried Ra, and then when I just typed in Rakiraki, these were the four that came up. Yeah. So kudos to those who are doing the digitization program at the New Zealand libraries, the National Library and the Turnbull Library. They're doing such a wonderful job to allow us, when we're searching, they're actually putting in the names of these places. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
It helps us when we're doing our research. We don't have to go Fiji and then Ra province, but you can even go down to places. I just typed in Rakiraki, and these were the four that came up.
It's amazing what you can find now.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really good. I think at the moment we have a gentleman from Kandavu. His name is Tim Kong. Tim, he works on a project that is to do with access. And he's connecting all the collections from the Australian libraries as well as New Zealand. And I think they're going all over the world now. And they're trying to get a lot of their photographs and archival materials digitally available for people to use. Yeah?
I think he was in a online workshop that I was sitting in on yesterday, and Opeta was there as well. And a bunch of other, you couldn't see who was actually there, so I only knew that Opeta was there because he put in his some comments. But yeah, I think I know which project you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure he was commenting. It is an amazing website that they're setting up.
Yes. And I think one thing I like about it is, access. That's the most important point, to make people find their own stories and find their own histories or their own. Oh yeah, thank you, Ariella. Ariella just put it here. Digital Pacific.
There we go.
Yes, digitalpacific.org. Thank you, Tau, Pinandu, Mahalo Nui, for sharing the link. So that is a really good resource. So for anyone, a school teacher or parent listening in today on our Talanoa with Dr. Kirstie, that a lot of these photographs, not only photographs, even audio, visual stuff, you can also go in and access them and use them for your research. And most of them are freely available. Yeah, so there you go. So that's a really good digital database where you can access photographs and, archival materials or even audio-visual materials like old films. You can also find them online. Okay. All right. So over to you now, Dr. Kirstie, the moment we've been waiting for. Woohoo!
I don't know about that. I've enjoyed the maps, but yeah. So I've tried to focus a little bit on the 1800s with what I've put in with the quotes, and just trying to let everyone know what research has been done on Rakiraki. Not really my own so much in this section, but So one of the authors who's done a lot of research on Rakiraki and around Ra is Martha Kaplan. I've got her book here because I've been referring to it so much, Neither Cargo Nor Cult. And so the main thing that I ended up researching and like preparing for was looking at how historians and anthropologists have talked about the Tuca movement, which was really strong around Ra and Rakiraki and all through that area, and also just the tensions between Tuca and Methodism or other Christianity, Christian denominations. So yeah, but in Kaplan's book, she talks about some of the origin stories for people from around Ra. And she had a quote from a man from Vatican Loco from 1985, which is when I was born. So that's special for me. But anyway, he said, "I hold to Fiji only. I do not come from South America, Egypt, or Tanganyika." I can never say that quite right. "I have always been here, not arrived from there." So yeah, there's this Rakiraki story that has people just always being there, and it reminds me of First Nations Australians who, you know, they've been here from time immemorial, is what is said. So yeah, those really deep connections to place are important. But yeah, that's also been captured in the writing of someone named Brewster. He seems to come up a lot. I think he was an anthropologist. I did look into that at some stage, but Martha Kaplan definitely is an anthropologist who uses a lot of historical material.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So yes, it's really good for those who are wanting to do more research in terms of Rakiraki. Martha Kaplan is a really good author that covered there a lot of what Kirstie was sharing, vinaka.
I think the most important thing to remember is that the people watching will have heaps more to say about this. And like, you know, academic scholarship is like one tiny little bit of the puzzle. And you know, only captures so much. So it'd be really interesting to see what everyone else is saying about this.
Yeah, absolutely, particularly for the province of Ra and the question of origin of Fijians, which is always a very sensitive topic. But it's really good there when you actually see someone from Watakaloko, you know, sharing his view, you know, about this whole debate, because a lot of times anthropologists often come in with a notion or preconceived idea of telling people this is where you come from, right? Rather than going in with a clear mind and asking the locals, where do you think you come from? You know, that can be a kind of a good way of conversations, you know, with the local people. So interesting that this was shared. And this is kind of a view as well, as you said, in Australia, right? The indigenous Aborigines. Yes, this is how they view their origins too.
Yeah, but then you've got the archaeological theories about people coming in from different places and migrating and whatnot. But yeah, there's different perspectives. Yeah.
Okay, vinaka. And then we go to the next one.
Yeah, so another thing that Martha Kaplan talks about is the Vatican Chieftain. And I wasn't sure whether you would know more about this, Dr. T, because of all your knowledge of maps and the deep histories of Fiji. And I'm more of a 20th century girl, but on the fringe of the northernmost of the larger coastal chiefdoms of Viti Levu Island, she said, the kingdom of Thakova, now better known as Rakiraki. So, yeah, did you have anything to add into that?
I find it interesting with the kingdom of the Kova, because this could be a good way to ask our audience. You know, some of them may remember this old name, because today a lot of us know Rakiraki. But it's interesting that in this book, Kaplan mentioned the kingdom of the Kova. I better write that down, because that's a really good way of digging a little bit deeper, because particularly with the place names, because a lot of us are familiar with Rakiraki. So some of the colleagues who are from Rakiraki who are online, can also be able to share a little bit more from their perspective if they're from there, because this is really good to know. Because through research, we can be able to find some places that had different name from what we're used to. And of course, Vatican Chieftain, again, the use of that particular word too, because Vatican is a very interesting place, very controversial on so many levels, especially with the use and the sale of their land. Controversial in the sense that, they were sold illegally, I think from a TOK perspective. Yeah, so maybe it'll be good to hear from someone who is from there to actually speak on that.
Yeah, yes. I think a lot of this stuff is difficult. It's difficult histories, I think. It's just, yeah.
But it's also good to mention about it, because otherwise the younger generation won't be aware of it, and it becomes lost history. And then it becomes sort of like erased from our knowledge or from our memory. So it's really good, I think, in a way that these writers or these anthropologists, they still do justice in a way where they go into these places and write and record them. Because for us Itoke people, as you know, with a lot of our indigenous communities, so it's through oral history. So things are passed down verbally, or through songs, or through chants. But when it's written down, of course, as you said earlier, there can always be a debate on how truthful the history that is recorded is. But to me, I'm always saying that at least something is written rather than nothing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we can start the discussions and keep them going, it's pretty amazing. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who are from Ra, and if you're watching this, or maybe we'll watch this replay, in the book written by Martha Kaplan, there's a mention of the kingdom of the Kova. Yeah, the kingdom of the Kova. So if any of you have any input or recollection of that, you're welcome to jot it down in the comment section. This is really good. I like it.
Good.
Yeah, because you know what, Kirstie, because our people, especially the people of Vatican, they've been downtrodden for so long. And if they're already downtrodden and they are not mentioned, imagine the erasure of their history.
That's it. Yeah. And that's like sometimes the erasure is intentional and harmful. Yeah, so it's sometimes, I think I've been thinking a lot about what's good to have out in the open as a discussion and what's not so good to have out in the open. And I think still having difficult conversations is what I personally prefer as a mode of living. So I don't know. It's but yeah, it's got to be done with sensitivity always, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as you were saying too, that if it's not mentioned or not highlighted at all, it'll be forgotten, or people will just think that it's not important. So that's why having this kind of online discussion and sessions, it's critical. Yeah, critical for us to be reminded of how powerful our people were. They were very strong people. They have their own kingdoms before the colonial people came in, So the people of Ra and the Vanua of Rakiraki, they were known to be very, very strong on so many ways, even warriors when it comes to war and things like that. They were very strong in defending their place. Okay, so here we are, over to the next one, coming now to missionary.
Yeah, so the missionaries working on Biwa, which is what we were talking about earlier, were very interested in the area around Rakiraki because they had heard about dengue. And I know my pronunciation is not great there. I'm sorry. My old Vasavakaviti teacher, Dr. D, please don't hurt me. But yeah, one of the quotes was that coastal Fijians and European missionaries were afraid to go up into the hill areas. Ra and the interior people frequently came down the coast to work on plantations. So I think as plantations grew in number, particularly through the 1860s, and there were those lots of American planters who came out because they were getting away from the American Civil War. A lot of people from Ra were being recruited to work, and yeah, like that is like something that I'm sure people will have some memories of. And I was talking to someone on Facebook Messenger the other day whose ancestors had been taken over to work. I know there were people taken over to Tabayuni and all around the Eastern Islands. Yeah, but a significant part of the workforce that was going on in this pre-session but still almost colonial period.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. So Mr. Teto Tambaleka just mentioned here about the kingdom of the Koba and the Vanua Kaloko. He will source a right resource person. Oh, vinaka bakalewu. Teto Tambaleka. So he is responding to the call we did earlier, Dr. Kirstie, about the mention of the kingdom of the Koba and the Vanua of Kaloko. So he has a right person who can be able to come on my platform again in the future to talk a little bit about that. That's exciting.
That is so exciting. So good. So yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, and this is why I love social media, because we get to, get input from everyone else.
Yes.
Yeah, so exciting.
Absolutely. Vinakabalib sar Thai, that'll be really good. Vinakabalib na dauti ko mai, kaya karon indua ngwali mai, may indua na tavi, and kaya ba madal tikitiko na matintua the cover, but kaya ba no wat kaloko, and natotoka sarva ko uti na nanda vitalano totok. Wow. Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. So I will keep you informed, Dr. Kirstie, for that Talanoa session. So, woohoo! So that's really good. I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Cool. Yeah.
So here, looking at the plantation work, so definitely, yeah. So there were lots of people of Ra that were taken all over the place. So even in all around Fiji, some of them actually returned to their place after their work, but working in plantation was a big deal in the 1800s.
Yeah. So yeah, and those who were able to come back, they were able to bring back all the knowledge from how to run the plantations too. So you can see that in the way that farming was done afterwards in around Ra, I think.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting, and I'm glad to that. Well, in a way, the missionaries, as you said on your first paragraph up there, that they were interested in doing the interview about dengue. So that was fascinating, because around that time, that was a whole time period of people were wanting to know about the origin of Fijians. So definitely in Ra, you have got the area called Nakauvan, the Nakauvan Ranges, which connects to all this oral history that we're talking about. Okay, interesting. Naka. Okay, so we go to the next one. Yeah, the Tuca Movement.
Yes, the Tuca.
Sorry, I couldn't skip this.
Okay. Yeah, carry on. That's Siri.
Yeah, and again, I'm worried I'm going to say things terribly, but so one of the main things that Martha Kaplan focuses on is the Tuca Movement. And Kenon Burridge is another anthropologist who's looked into this. So Ndungmoy was a prophet, they said, who adopted the name of Navasava Kandua. I've often said that wrong. And so he was supposed to be from Draunivi, which I saw on the map before. So that's definitely in the right spot. So he told his followers that the world would be turned upside down and that white people would serve the Fijians and chiefs would serve commoners. And so I think, people have often linked Apollosi Nawai's ideas with Tuca and thought that he was kind of a later evolution of that movement. So, yeah, again, it'll be really interesting to hear what people have to say about this. And Burridge argued that facing the Europeans coming in, this movement, which he called a cult, aimed to rechannel traditional sources of authority into this kind of anti-colonial movement. And yeah, so I think I've kind of repeated myself, but the chiefs would serve commoners was part of that. So yeah, that's a big source of interest for anthropologists, but I think that's part of why the missionaries were also increasingly interested in this area, is because it was seen as a place where they wanted to focus their energy on converting people to Christianity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I hope that there will be some people too from Ronivi watching this Talanoa session. Definitely Ndumumoy is the name, and Apollosi Nawai have been, I think, in our discussions in some of our other social media pages, even within the Fijian community, even in the TOK language. There's been a lot of discussions about this. But I was going to ask you a question in terms of the missionaries that you were researching or you were working with. Were there other missionaries that actually wrote or talked about Ndumumoy or Nabosavakandua in any of their writings?
Laura Matthiessen probably did. I don't think I ended up finding his publications about that, but I'd be very surprised if he didn't put anything down. And probably Langham as well. Yeah, I ran out of time in the end to go digging around, and then with lockdowns and stuff, it just hasn't been possible to go to the archives. And when I was doing my research for my thesis, I was much more focused on the 20th century, so I didn't take notes from that time frame, which is a bit of a pest now that I wish I had. But yes, so they're the two. Laura Mathiessen's a big one because he was really interested in trying to capture stories and histories. The other person would be Alan Tippett, but he was later. But he was also like he's got so many papers held in Canberra, which tries to record oral histories and experiences. So yeah, they're the main ones.
And are those papers by Alan Tippett in Canberra, are they accessible digitally, or do you have to be there physically to access them?
I don't know if they are digitized. I think they might be in person ones. So yeah, I'll have to check. They're not with the National Library. They're with think it's the Uniting Church Archives.
I see. Wow.
But I'll double check that to you. Let me make a note to do that. But yeah, no, his papers are extensive. He did publish a few books. Yeah, so they're around, but his papers go well beyond that.
Definitely. Wow, that's interesting. So for those of you who are listening in, these are the names that Dr. Kirstie mentioned. Yeah, Laurie Mathieson, Frederick Langham, Alan Tippett. Yeah, those are the names that those of you who are interested, plus also the ones on this list here. Of course, Mother Kaplan that we've been referring to, but Canham Burridge. Yeah. So there'll be another good source as well, Dr. Kirstie.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. And I know there's a few people here. Mr. Sililo Malangi, who has always been in deep discussions about the Tuca Movement and about Navosa Vakandua and about the province of Ra. Because Ra is such a very interesting province because many places around Fiji, they reconnect back to Ra. Yeah. So in terms of the human migration, our people when they moved around, and we've covered it as well when we were talking with Dr. Paul Garrity, talking about place names and how Fijians were not only staying in one place, there's different reasons of why people move, but as they move, they take the stories with them as well as their the place names and the names of their tribes. Okay, so that's really, really interesting, fascinating for Fijians. So I really want to encourage a lot of our young Fijians that are watching today to maybe be encouraged from the Talanoa I have with Dr. Kirstie to start asking questions. Yeah, ask your dad, ask your mom, ask your uncles, and if you have your grandfather that is still around, ask them now. Write some of your research or write their responses down and start recording them and researching your own tribe. Yeah, would that be something you would encourage our young ones, Dr. Kirstie?
Oh, for sure. That would be amazing. Yes. And I think, that's part of why we're doing this in the first place. Don't you think, Dr. T? It's like, let's help the next generation start their research journey as historians. Like, I would love that. And any support that we can offer, I'm happy to give. But yes, that would be a great way to start.
Yes. Yeah. So really encouraging our young ones. There's quite a few young ones listening in today. So vinaka ba levo bekem na barong tukmen vital no ni pua but ki Dr. Kirstie ni taka ni kirona bang git kemni ni tambangwan ni muni da kabnom ni bandindike. Yeah. So ask and record, and you never know, it will be of use in the future. Okay, vinaka. And yeah, we've got one more thing there for you, my dear.
Oh, yes. So, part of the story is that the whole community at Draunivi was exiled and relocated to Kandavu. So they were eventually repatriated. And again, this would be amazing if people know family who were part of this, or, if this is not quite what people remember, then that would also be really interesting. But it sounds like everyone was brought back in 1909. So it was a short-term exile, but must have had a huge impact. But the impact of it doesn't really get talked about so much. Not in the sources anyways that I've read. So, but the process of exile seems to be the favorite way of dealing with anti-colonial movements in Fiji from the 1800s and even 1920s and 30s, because Apollosi got exiled twice, and then this is another example of it. So as part of the Tuca, the response to the Tuca, this is what happened. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, exile, eh? Wow. I mean, from a TOK perspective, a lot of these individuals like Kapalosi and Dungumoy, they were wanting to protect their people. And they knew and they understood that these new changes that is coming in is actually not the same as what they were used to. So I think in that way, these movements, when they were, even the use of the word cult, and the use of the word, that they were, going against or anti-colonial people, but it is from a different perspective, right? So it's a different lens. But from the Itoke point of view, it's like, hello, where did you guys come from? And then they come in and they say, now you have to pay taxes, and they were like, what taxes are you talking about? Which means, they have to like leave their village, Dr. Kirstie, leave their koro and go to Tavioni, or go to another Lebuka, or go to Vanua, go to Kandawe and look at this one. Where they were exiled, not one person, but the whole community, just because they went against the colonial power. Wow. Yeah, so that's very, very interesting. So maybe for those of you who are listening in, Vinaka Sili, so if there are some of you who are watching and who are familiar with this Tuca movement, you can also share it with us, but also this is encouraging for many young ones who are interested in history, to start doing your research. Go to the libraries. At the moment, the libraries are still closed, but you can go digitally. You can go online. You can sit from the comfort of your home. As the Digital Pacific link, which Ariella has put on this link. Any of you is interested to do research of the past, not only for Rakiraki, but from where you come from, go to Digital Pacific. Digital Pacific is a digital platform where you can access old photographs, you can access old audio recordings, and there are also some old videos in there. And one of our fellow Fijians, Tim Kong, is working there. And I have to say, he's from Kandavu, Dr. Kirstie. So I don't know why the Kandavu people are everywhere.
Yeah, they are. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So Vinaka Vakalevu for bringing up some of these interesting points for our Talanoa today. Okay, so one more there for you.
Yes, so this is where it gets trickier still. So Andrew Thornley is another historian who's done work around this region. So his book is Exodus of the TOK, and I think I've shown it to you before, so I won't go and get it. But he was talking about how there was that gradual conversion of people to Methodism. There's the conflicts around the region through the 1800s. Ma'afu was trying to get involved and flaring things up at times in around the 1850s. So we know like the Tholo Wars and all that was going on. The Battle of Kamba in the middle of that. So yeah, it's all, we've covered that in other sessions, so I didn't put in too much detail about it, but you can kind of picture the scene around BT Levu through those decades, and then the Methodists hovering, trying to convert everyone in the meantime. Yes, so they were kind of, like I said, they were sitting on Viwa looking, the Methodist missionaries were looking from Viwa up towards Rakiraki and just thinking, it would be good to get up there. So I think they did when they could, and then had to stay put on Viwa where it was safe for them for the rest of the time.
Man, interesting, eh? And I'm glad you mentioned about the Tholo Wars and the Battle of Kamba, and of course with Ma'afu's involvement. And you can see here, I'm glad you mentioned his name, because his name is always brought up when we were studying social studies in primary school. We have a book called Fiji, the Land and the People. And what was another one? Some of our history books that's to do with the Pacific. But that's one, the Fiji Land and the People. I can still picture the cover of the book. It's kind of like yellow, orangey book, and there's a Fijian man, yeah, with a big ulvaviti and the umrua. There's a double hull canoe as a cover of the book. It's a really good book, easy for us to read when we were in primary school. But Ma'afu's name was always written there. Most of us knew about him from primary school. Yeah, very interesting. Anything you want to add here from or how much do you know about Andrew Thornley? Because I love many of his books that he's written.
He's lovely. So yeah, I've been lucky to talk to him a fair bit, not for the last few years, but while I was doing my research, I went to stay with him actually up in Parramatta, and he let me look at his notes and everything. I was very lucky because he looked more into the 1800s. So I think I got to a point where I thought I really need to know, who was I looking for? Probably Langham and Arthur Small, who became the chairman of the mission around the start of the 1900s.
Yes.
Who else did I want to look at? I forget. Anyway, so he has very extensive notes. But yeah, I do like how his books are translated by Taonga, into Fijian, so that there's both English and Fijian in his books. Yeah, it's been really good. But he's very good with the 1800s.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was fortunate of you to actually go and see him.
I know, yes, he's been really lovely, and he's the one who organised for me to go to Viwa for John Hunt's anniversary celebrations. To invited me and Max and Morgan from USP and Kate. So yeah, no, he's and he has helped out with the republication of different translations of the Bible as well. I think that's why he was working on John Hunt's version.
Yeah.
And then he was working on another one. He's very involved in the church, the Uniting Church, and his wife as well. So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned his name because, a lot of his writings is really into recording, a lot of the experiences, especially during that time period. So that was wonderful that you were able to access some of his written notes.
Yes, very lucky, very, very generous. And so I think that's the nice thing. Once you start working in Pacific history, there are a lot of really amazing people who are very generous with their knowledge and willing to sit down and talk with you and share what they have. That's been really lovely.
Wow. Yes, so there you go. For those of you who are logging in and watching our Talanoa, that's another name to write down. Andrew Thornley. He's written a lot of really good books. And as you said, the translation in Tongan and Fijian too, Kirstie?
In Fijian, yeah.
In Fijian, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was done by Taonga Valeono. It's the one who's done the translation part. So, yeah, it's a good collaboration.
Wow. Okay, so that's wonderful. And I think for those of you who are listening in too will know that, when it comes to research, it's good not to be afraid to ask questions. And if you want to ask any question, it's always good to ask one person and another person it's like a snowball method of connecting. And I know a lot of us people in the Pacific, we have our own networks within our own family, our own tribes. But then when you move into the field of research, I'm glad you mentioned that Andrew was very giving, right? And very open. So that's something that I want to encourage our young ones who are wanting to do research in the field of history. Don't be shy, don't be scared. And a lot of the archives in different parts of the world, in this case in Australia. They have, like the Uniting Church you mentioned, they even have their own archives. Yeah, so you don't have to go to the major national library, but you can also go through the small collections as well.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And even there's a Uniting Church archive in Melbourne, which I used to go to, and it was run by volunteers who had retired. And so I would be able to sit and have a cup of tea and biscuits with them in the morning. You know, like we'd all sit at this long table for a cup of tea and then get back to our work for a bit and then have another break. So, you know, you get to share all this time, you know, and I was the youngest by a long shot at these sessions. So I just loved it, you know. Yeah, archives are special places.
Wow, that is awesome. See, Kirstie was a very young girl at that time. She wasn't scared. She was keen to ask questions. And look, you were mingling with all these very amazing individuals, right? Who were able to share things with you and allowed you to be where you are now, completed your PhD research, wrote a book, and I know there's more to come.
Yeah, vinaka, yeah, I've been very lucky. There's just, I like people. I think it makes a difference.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good point. See, for many of you who are listening in, if you have a lot of good people skills, then research is not a problem. What say, Dr. Kirstie?
Yes, I think so. Although I think a lot of researchers don't mind being on their own, and just because it does take a lot of time when you've got to be disciplined about it. But yes, I think people skills get you quite a long way.
And you can be antisocial for a short period of time while you're sitting in the archives.
That's right. Yes, you must be antisocial. Yes.
So you can be focused there on reading and writing. And I remember talking to Associate Professor Damon Salesa, who was my other supervisor from the University of Auckland. And he was saying to me that his favorite places that he goes to are the archives. And he says sometimes he can be in the archives and he forgets the time. He even forgets to eat, you know, like that's how much he enjoys being in the libraries or archives. And look at him. No wonder, you know, look at where he is academically, you know, publishing books and stuff like that. So I'm sure there will be people in the audience who love to be alone in the archives or alone in a library or in a museum like me. But when you go to these special spaces, they're wonderful because that's where all the old informations are.
I know,
right? And
it's very special. Just something about the smell of the old paper and stuff. It's just, I understand.
Yes. So there you go. It was really interesting while we were talking about it, Dr. Kirstie. It was like two geeky high school students, you know, giggling and getting excited going to the archives.
I think, once you've experienced it, you get it, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's okay to be alone. It's normal. And after you come back from the archives, then you can hang out with your friends.
Yeah. Go back to being a normal person.
Okay, so there you go. So one more for you. Oh, this is exciting.
So this is again where it gets difficult. So and I got excited with this research because Rowan Dronu is a name I know because Nathanieli Rowan Dronu and my great granddad Arthur worked together. So I don't know if they were related. I suspect maybe they were, Isake and Nathanieli. But he was appointed as one of the first talatalas around Ra in 1862, and he was at Navatu. And then this is where Lorimer Fyson comes in. So 2 years later, Fyson decided that the old beliefs were too influential. So the quote is that Rowan Dronu, in company with a party of teachers, walked to Kalvandra, which I think is Nakavandra, the site of the holy temple of Denge, and they stripped the temple, robbing the shrine of some of the most holy relics. So this is like the start around, from what I can tell, the start of this challenge to old religious beliefs. And, you know, you can see how the tensions would have come up with Tuca and everything as well. So Thyssen approved of all this and called it a successful predatory raid. So it's pretty full on. And then a year later, about 100 villages, including about 10,000 people around Tabui and Rakiraki, converted to Methodism. So what does that mean? 1863. Oh no, hang on, 1865-ish. So yeah, it that was some of the more finer detail. But I think it's really, it must have been a very difficult time navigating all this change. You know, so yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, this is quite difficult history, and you know, even as an outsider, I find this difficult history, especially knowing the way my family was involved with Methodism, and like growing up with kind of more respect for traditional cultures and practices. This makes me feel really yuck. I don't know. It'll have different impacts on different people, I suppose.
Wow. It's just looking at two worlds colliding, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I think I've been to Navatu. I'm pretty sure that's where Nathaniel Rawandranu is buried. And so I got taken by his family to see the grave, to see his grave in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah.
And there's a TOK monument there to the TOK farmers who, yeah, that's the movement that my great-granddad helped out with a little bit. So, yeah, very special part of Viti Levu for me.
Wow. So they'll be really good for some of you online who have connections with Aistakirawainran. I always like to have these names. I'm glad you had the name written out like this, because again, as we were talking about before, it's always good to remember those who have gone before us. They've worked tirelessly, and I think at this time, looking at the number of conversions, 100 villages, that's quite a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure during this time as well, this was a very a time of upheaval, in Fiji, with the presence of Ma'afu and also the Kumbau wanting to create his own government around that time. So from 1862 leading up to the deed of cession, very interesting times.
Yeah, and this is the time when a lot of people were going over to the plantations too in the 1860s. So yeah, it's all happening.
Wow, so there's a lot of movements, a lot of agents of change. So you can see the colonial government present, also the missionaries. Wow. Okay, so wonderful, really interesting. Thank you for highlighting all of this. So Esther Tulevu has been putting out some other sources as well to support what you're sharing, Dr. Kirstie.
Oh, great, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's good. So the others can be able to access this later on and search some other supporting information.
Great.
Okay, so one more here.
Oh yeah, so I think I just wanted to mention that Fijian ministers, the Talatalas, were trained pretty early and put in charge of large circuits. So that's one of the different things about Fiji, is that they were ordaining Methodist Methodist ministers earlier than in other places. So yeah, again, I wanted to include some names. So Weseli Theory and Marika Tangitham Thakimbau. Yeah, so they had the circuits at I know I'm going to say this wrong, Nakoro Tumbu and Rakiraki. So that's yeah, I just wanted to give some examples of who was where and all that sort of thing. But they did, the missionaries were supposed to hand over control to local ministers from the start of the mission. And then it kind of got slowed down around the start of the 20th century because they were just like, not sure that we should give away so much power. So, yeah. it's all part of the colonial process, I feel.
Wow. And those were large circuits, that they were, so there must have been the demand there for that, the change. As you can see previously, there was 100 villages, converted. So therefore they needed the lay preachers or ministers to actually go out there and service those communities.
That's right. And then build churches, organize all that sort of stuff, schools. Yeah, so it's a big, again, huge changes through this time.
And you mentioned about the TOK farmers. What was the TOK farmers involved in your research?
So yeah, what I ended up doing was looking at what my great granddad was doing, because I didn't really know much. Because Granny had been at boarding school, and then as I went through my research at the National Archives, I realised he had been involved with the Tuca farmers movement, working very closely with Ratu Nathanieli Rawandronu, and so they were setting up farmers on their own pockets of land that I think they leased it from CSR, but trying to encourage people to earn money for themselves, not that would go back to anybody else. But then a lot of the Toka farmers were putting money towards a fund to try and ask for a TOK Methodist church to be set up. So that's part of it as well. And they were also collecting tambua, which they presented to the church in the 1940s. But that request was denied because the war was going on and the missionaries didn't think they were ready for it. So all part of that. But it was I think Arthur Laline was wanting to support it because he saw it as a way to respond to some of what Apollosi was asking for and promoting. The economic autonomy and just a bit more independence within the colonial system. So but I don't think that the colonial administration liked it very much. I don't think Sakuna liked it, but so that's there's a chapter in my book that talks a lot more about what they were doing, or what I was able to piece together from the archives and then doing interviews.
Oh, that's good to know. So for those of you who are watching and wanting to know about the Toko farmers, Toko farmers, you can go into Dr. Kirstie's book, and there's a chapter there that talks about that. Vinaka Wakalevu, Dr. Kirstie. So what I've done here, I've gone online and brought in some of these books, and I can see Andrew Thornley's name on the right hand side there. So I just brought in these books just to kind of again highlight or connect it to some of your own research, and looking at the changes that were happening in the Pacific region, but in this case for Fiji during the early 1800s. So any comments or anything you want to add to some of these pictures? I think I've got 2 more slides.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the Fiji ministers being amongst the first to be ordained, and take those leadership roles within the Methodist mission, which was pretty unique for colonized areas. So I think I just think it's interesting watching what people do when they get put into a circuit, and then if you can find stuff about their theological ideas, I always find that really interesting too. And sometimes it's hard to find when it's the 1800s, but there are occasionally books and biographies that these talatalas wrote themselves that have been preserved. So part of the benefit of working with a mission archive is that they often wrote heaps of stuff. So it is amazing what you can find.
Wow. See, so there's no excuse of finding all this information. So you just have to have the time and the will to do it. Wow. So there you go. So for those of you who wanting to do further research, that's another source of information, the mission archives. You mentioned a few in Canberra and Melbourne and Sydney as well.
Yeah,
So I'm sure they must be everywhere, right?
they are. Yeah, they're kind of scattered around, but you can find things through Trove if you're like if you're in lockdown and you're just stuck online, then I would check out the Trove website, TROVE, which is run by the National Library of Australia, and it is amazing what you can find about the Pacific on there. It's so good, even though it's the Australian National Library, like because they've digitized so many newspapers, and there's reports coming in from Fiji and New Guinea all the time. Yeah, you get colonial perspectives, but still a perspective of what's going on. So yeah, Apolosi's mentioned in the newspaper. I'm pretty sure Tuca is mentioned. Definitely there's heaps of Methodist missionaries whose articles get published. So yeah, that's an amazing place to go. But yeah, the Methodist archives that I used were at the National Archives in Suva. So that's where they, you know, use those, and then the ones that are held at the Mitchell Library in Sydney, mostly.
See, so that's good to, you know, for those of you who listened to our interview this Monday, just a recent Monday, yeah, with Dr. Kirstie and Opeta Alifayo, the previous director of the National Archives, is now at USP. Yeah, he was, you know, mentioning, you know, the role of the National Archives. So that was really useful, that you were able to share your experience as a visiting researcher, but also hearing from him as a local indigenous Fijian archivist. So again, reminding us to our Fijians that our own National Archives is a treasure, and we need to go and use it more. I think that's something I want to encourage. Sometimes we often look outside all the time, but I think it's important to also look within Fiji, go to the National Archives. But since we're on lockdown, go to Trove, TROVE.
TROVE, or when you're stuck with your family, start doing those family interviews. Also good. No one can go anywhere. They're stuck with you. So, you know, that's what I would.
Yes.
Trove and corner your family.
Wow. Yeah. So there you go. So that's a good way to learn more. And Esther Tulevu, if you want to know more, you're asking a lot of questions, which is good. Read Dr. Kirstie's book. Dr. Kirstie's book. What's the title of your book again? I think I have it here.
A Mission Divided. Yeah.
A Mission Divided. Yeah, A Mission Divided. So for those of you who are asking questions, go to Dr. Kirstie's book. You can download it online. It's free of charge. Type in the name of this book, and it will appear. Download it, read it. Yes, so just a reminder, read it, because a lot of the questions that you may want, you asking at the moment, all the answers are in the book. Yeah, all the answers are in the book. Okay, so well, most of it, because some of the questions they're asking is already in the book.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so especially with the Indian, you know, the Indians in the Indian mission, you know, which we shared in the last Talanoa. So they're all there. Yeah, so that's something I want to remind everybody. And yeah, this is another picture that I found, which actually goes in with the Indian mission.
Yes.
Again, I found it as well, which I find it interesting, which answers the question that Esther Tulevu is asking. Yeah, with you mentioned about Del Kusha in our last Talanoa for No Story. Want to say anything to that?
Well, because I can't see what the questions are, but yes, I think Dudley Memorial Church. This looks like it's Dudley. Yeah, it's all very important. So in my book, I look at the split between the Fijian and the Indian branches of the Methodist mission. So yeah, if you're interested in how that was done and what the ideas were behind that, then that's what I tried to follow. And then how they tried to resolve it. But yeah, just all the debates through the decades about that. But yeah, like there was one really significant Indo-Fijian minister, Ramsay Dioki, whose journey I follow. And I'm sure, do you know what year this photo is, Dr. T? I wonder if he's in there.
No, I didn't get the year.
That's okay. Oh yeah, I might do some digging around. But yeah, he was a really interesting person, and I think there's a photo of him in the book anyways.
Right.
Yeah, but there's some really interesting pushback from Indian ministers through the 1920s and 30s as well. So yeah, I found that all really interesting. And then the work I'm doing at the moment is looking at, well, some of it involves L.M. Thompson, who was involved with the Indian branch, and he goes to India through the 20s and 30s and was, I think he went to Allahabad, where there was agricultural work going on through the schools. Yeah, so anyway, all those connections really fascinate me. That's just, yeah, it is just really extraordinary. This early 20th century history is my love, but yeah.
Wow, you mentioned the name of the Indian pastor. Can you repeat it again? And
it was Ramsay Dioki.
Oh, okay.
Really interesting guy. And there's a few others who are floating around, but I think he was the first minister of Indian heritage who worked in the Methodist mission in Fiji. So I forget what year he was ordained. It might have been around 1938. Yeah. But yeah, it's a long time since I wrote the book, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, it took a long time, like so much longer than for Fijian Talatalas to get ordained. So that speaks a little bit to the different ways in which the communities were engaged with the mission.
Wow. Very interesting. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, I think this is our last slide, and just highlighting again the importance of writing. So for those of you who have, I think there's a few who have downloaded your book again, so that's good. And it's really encouraging to see and hear from Dr. Kirstie, for the work that she did in Fiji. Anything else you want to share in terms of your memories of going through Rakiraki back in 2013?
I just really miss it. I've been trying to get back up there. Like I've had trips to USP that have had to be really short, and all I want to do is go to like Lautoka, Tabua, Rakiraki, like just the whole north. I really miss it up there, and yeah, I think that's where my most amazing research experiences have been, but also the most powerful personal experiences, because I know that place was so important to my great-granddad, and I really kind of admire him for sticking up for people against the colonial administration through the 20s and 30s. So yeah, for me that yeah, it was just very special.
Wow. So I think at this time we would like to thank you, Dr. Kirstie, for spending some time with us on a Saturday afternoon over there in Melbourne, and sharing with us your journey in Fiji, as well as sharing with us your book, A Mission Divided, Race, Culture and Colonialism in Fiji's Methodist Mission. And in the course of your PhD research, you traveled to different places and met different people and made a lot of friends. And, you continue to, inspire so many people, especially through your social media interventions. which is really good, and getting our young people, to get interested in history, and you're making it very accessible and very exciting, I think. So I just want to say vinaka bakalevu to you and to our listeners connecting in from different parts of the world. We just want to say vinaka bakalevu to all of you for taking time out from your busy schedule and to come over to Talanoa with Dr. T and listen to me and Dr. Kirstie just Talanoa and sharing some of our research and journey, some of our struggles as well. But there's so much joy, I think, when you go down memory lane and do your reading and research and writing, going to the archives, libraries, and museums. So these three organizations are really key heritage institutions: libraries, archives, and museums, because these three institutions they hold the heritage fabric of any nation. Yeah, so that's how I always kind of want to highlight it to all of us listening in today, and those who will who will watch our live later on. Just want to say vinaka bakalevu to you, Dr. Kirstie, and for all our listeners for faithfully following us once a month and taking this journey and taking you with us on this journey free of charge via social media and via Facebook, yeah, and also via YouTube. So before we finish, any last word for our viewers, Dr. Kirstie?
Just vinaka to anyone who's listening who I have met on the way and who has helped me out. I got a lot of support around Ra. And just thank you to you, Dr. T, for having me back again and letting me, share stuff. I love the opportunity to share what I've found with people who are interested, so that, this material is more available or known about, and hopefully just keep those conversations going. I think it's really important.
Oh, vinaka bakalevu. So on that note, we just want to close our Talanoa session, and we will see you again next month for our next talk story. Do you have the place for us to go to next month?
It's Tabiini.
Oh,
I'm very excited.
Oh, there you go. So on our talk story, we did Suva, Nosori, Viwa. Now we're doing Rakiraki. And next month, we will be traveling to Taveuni. So Taveuni is another interesting place that is connected very well to Dr. Kirstie's research on the Methodist missions and during the colonial period, the 1800s, that Dr. Kirstie has been researching about. Some of you, if you want to talk to Dr. Kirstie or find her, you'll easily find her on Facebook or Instagram. Definitely you can talk to her. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. You can find me.
So vinaka bakalevu. So from all of us here in Hawaii and from Melbourne, just want to say vinaka bakalevu to you, Dr. Kirstie, and you take care of yourself. Enjoy your lockdown for now.
Yeah, I should say, if I'm ever slow responding to a message, it's just because I'm running around after the boys, or buried under marking or something. But I will always try and respond as quickly as I can. But yeah, vinaka, Dr. T, yeah, I'll probably send you a message later in the week saying I'm sick of lockdown. But, yeah.
Yeah, vinaka bakalevu, Sarah. So thank you. I know there's lots of other people on lockdown, Fiji and other places, and there needs to be maybe a lockdown party that we can do on our social media platform, Dr. Kirstie.
I like that very much.
Esther Tulevu is suggesting it. So thank you, Esther. If you want to host a party, that'll be really nice. Vinaka, Ariella. So there's a lot of thank yous to you, Dr. Kirstie, Alita, Wangambada, Sarah Tambakau. They all say vinaka bakalevu to you.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Nakabalik sar, my sister. Enjoy your evening and have a glass of wine for us.
Manda, I will do that.
Okay. Nakabalik, take care.
Mate.
Nakamade. Yeah. Nakabalik sar to all of you joining in today with Dr. Kirstie. She's on lockdown mode in Melbourne. And I know there's many other friends who are on lockdown mode in different places. So yeah, have a bowl of kava. I'll share my glass of water. And wishing you all the very best. Look after yourselves. Take care. Listen to the rules. Wear masks everywhere you go. Wash your hands. Sanitize. And 2 meters apart from the next person. And if you don't need to go anywhere, please don't go. Just stay home, read, go on Trove, read Dr. Kirstie's book. So there's lots of things you can do. Yeah. So from me in Hawaii, wishing you all the very best. And yes, thank you, Chane Batiwale. A good reminder, 8 p.m. Fiji time in the next hour, we'll be listening to Dr. Unaisi Nambombobamba, Professor Unaisi Nambombobamba. Please don't miss this Talanoa session. It's going to be exciting, thrilling, and uplifting. Yeah, so from Rakiraki in Ra, bidding farewell to our dear friends from Rakiraki and looking forward to the next Talanoa in the next hour from Dr. Kirstie Close. And also previously I was talking to Read to Succeed, thanking all the teachers that came in to Talanoa with me. We just want to say, Vinaka Vakalevu, I better read out their names. To Master Jose Vamboa, Livema Nguyado, Mistress Vadiseva Rarako, and Mistress Miriama Hawea. Vinaka Vakalevu to all our teachers who are doing such an amazing job in teaching our children online. You can go to the Read to Succeed Facebook page, ask to join, and also encouraging those of us from overseas to support the teachers. If you can do it in different ways, either we can financially support them or buy materials for them or digitally connect with them, that'll be amazing. Okay, Vinaka Vakalevu, everybody. And I will see you in the next hour with Professor Una Nambombobamba. Vinaka Vakalevu, Dr. Kirstie, for sharing your Talanoa with us on your memories of Rakiraki. Nisama Demanda.